Greetings and welcome, everyone. It's All You Can Geek Gamecast, episode 479 of the decade. I'm one host Jim Guest, joined by Mike Sneedy.
What's up?
Corey Feinsod.
Yo.
And Tony Korkanakis.
I'm young.
What's up, guys? Welcome, listeners, viewers, to our best games of the decade, of the tens.
Yes, starting with 2010.
Starting with 2010. Well, that's of the decade.
Yeah, I know, but sometimes people are like, "Oh, that's the last one. It's just started at 2011."
No, fuck those people.
Yes,
They're
I
not.
know. Well, I know.
Don't do my
I'm making that
Yeah.
because there's a couple games from that, or maybe one. I'm not sure.
No, but that would shift the decade to 2020 at the end of that decade.
I
wrong.
understand that.
That's wrong.
But that's
All right. This is our of the decade, folks. Now I'm going to give
Part
this
one.
disclaimer. Yeah, part one. Part one.
6 through 10.
A couple of disclaimers. We might talk spoilers because we're going to talk about plot sometimes. We can't be held accountable for that. I'm sorry. This is of the decade. There's going to be some overlap. We had some in the movie cast, a lot more than I expected, but we did.
It's more than I
But like I said,
it's about what I expected.
This is a decade of we've been doing this for a decade. This podcast almost, we have similar tastes, and that's why it's been going on so long as it is, because we enjoy talking about the same ththings and what we discuss. It's very similar opinions about things. I mean, if we had contrasting opinions, I think somebody would have been beaten up by now. We have
got into arguments,
it's not that we don't have contrasting opinions, but
it's good to have we
yeah.
all have our own opinions,
Right,
and
yeah.
obviously there are things that we enjoy that others don't, which is good because it creates a better conversation at times. But
I mean, there are going to be some on our list.
Overall, I think we do there's probably going to be a lot of overlap.
I mean, the top game might be the top game for a lot of us, but we'll see.
Probably not.
I'm gonna say my bottom part of my list.
We all have different top number ones.
We might.
Yeah.
And I would say we all have different tens.
I will say personally, I'm limiting myself to one per franchise because
Ooh,
I
didn't think you would.
No, I had to because I wanted to fit more things onto there, and there's also both of those things we're not going to talk about this podcast anyway.
I have the format going from the movie cast, so I'm going to kick us off here at number 10. We're going to follow the same order, so it's consistent for every podcast episode. Again, folks, this is 10 through 6. So spoilers could be included, whatever.
Decade.
We can't be held accountable.
2010. 2019.
Number 10. And this, I don't know if it's going to appear on other people's lists, but it was iconic for 2010, and that's why it was my number 10, because everything else is set in stone for me. And this one was this was very impactful for a game for 2010, for the tens. The Walking Dead from Telltale.
Okay. Yeah.
I loved The Wolf Among Us more, which is weird to say this, but
impact that The Walking Dead had.
Yes, The Walking Dead needed to be my number 10 game, and Telltale needed to be represented on my list because of what they oversaturated their own genre, but they created this adventure, choose your own adventure book essentially, in game form, and this story was excellent for a video game. The impact of, I
might have cried.
I'm I didn't want to lose. I didn't want to lose here.
It's actually one of those games where I watched it first on YouTube and still ended up getting it and playing it myself.
I mean, I didn't have any spoilers for what was happening, but that whole last sequence, I was just man, I don't want to lose. I don't want to lose. I want to live. I want to live.
The thing about that is at that point, that was something different. I think by the time the state of this franchise, even The Walking Dead now, it just beats you over the head so much. You're desensitized. Everyone's gonna die. You're always gonna be sad.
It was early enough. It was early enough in the franchise for that. Yeah. Yep. But yeah, so I just and the impactful choices, illusion of choice again, which we might talk about at some point.
We might not have known for sure back then, but
we didn't know at that time how much of an illusion it was, but it was still cool. He'll remember that is a iconic thing. Yeah, I mean,
actually,
so it's there. I mean, I really enjoyed this series, and it had to make my number 10. So that's it for me. Mike, you're number 10.
This was kind of hard. I could have said a few things that I've played more, but aren't like as big of a game like Rocket League. But I'm gonna hold that off. Just snuck in that as an honorable mention right now. I'm gonna go with Jedi Fallen Order. That's my 10th.
Wow.
Nice.
Yeah, I said, I knew I was a little higher on this game than you guys, and it is my first exposure to this type of game, and I even was frustrated from part of it. But I went back and I got all of the like secrets on all the planets. Like I went back.
We're gonna get DLC for this game, right? Like
I don't know. I hope so.
Oh, really? No? I really hope so, because I'm not trading in for that reason. Like I think we're gonna get DLC. If not, I'll trade it in. But I'm like, I kind of want to play it more.
I mean, what'd you get with the gold version or whatever like that?
That's what I'm saying. Like, there's got to be something with it.
You get an orange lightsaber, don't you? That's like that's what I know at least. Well, I don't know, but I sure hope so, because it is a game that I just finished, and this might be recency bias, like I said, like
could be, yeah.
But it just, I want to play more of the game. I wish there was more of the game to play. Like right now, I played through it. It was tough, but rewarding enough. It had another layer of combat to it, and it was an interesting Star Wars story. It combined different aspects of different games in ways that made it new, even though some people might say it was derivative. I mean, it was, but it combined. The pieces that it grabbed from were different enough that it made a new thing, in my opinion.
There's no planned DLC for this, Mike.
And
Let's move it on to the second one.
just drop it off my list. But
Yeah.
It's
Well, they're already working on the sequel, so I mean, anything
They are. You'll get a
the
sequel.
DLC is gonna be in the
I think you'll get a sequel very soon.
But
2 years. 2 years.
I was very surprised by this, and it was sort of the return to great single player Star Wars games too.
It's a
So
Star Wars game that was good. It's so hard to say that.
so it's like, yeah. So for at least the impact bonus, it makes my list then.
Cool.
Yeah. Cool. Tony?
Let's see, number 10. Gonna shock you all here. Gonna say Mass Effect 2.
What?
Yeah, I know.
It made your list. I wasn't even sure it was gonna make your list.
No, it made my list, and the thing I will say, and going back to the beginning of the podcast, how we said we do have a lot of overlapping opinion, but it's good that we have diversity, because I never would have played this game if it wasn't for you guys for like 6 months or whatever, just hyping me up for fucking Mass. Like every time I'd see you guys at like Casey's or Nick's or whatever, it's like you guys are just talking about Mass Effect. I'm like, all right, I just need to fucking play this game now, and I played Mass Effect 1, and it was janky as hell, but it was good jank. I loved it. It was RPG, sci-fi.
To this day, I think Nick likes that one better than 2.
Yeah, and I don't agree, but I can see
it there. It's like they took a lot of KOTOR and just like improved on it.
Yeah, so I can see that. But 2 did something that was like at the time I believe really unique in saying like, hey, you played 1, we're going to import your save as long as it works, and all those decisions you made are going to impact how 2 plays out. And I was like, oh, well, that's really cool. Like that hasn't been done on this scale before, so I'm really interested in doing that. And then 2 was just really good in how they returned some of the characters, but not all of them. And then just for me, just planet hopping, meeting the new members, recruiting the old members.
The dossiers were like awesome.
The dossiers, like what's his name? The Elusive Man was the the Elusive Man. Yeah. One of the greatest like villains or whatever like that. I love like every sequence with him. I mean, even the opening was just so awesome. Like it's like you.
It gives you a great way to like redo your character.
Yeah, like you just die in the opening. It's like, oh shit, like okay, that's a hell of a way to fucking kick off the sequel and stuff like that. Like we poured like millions and millions of whatever resources into you. It's like, all right, that's cool. I'm on board.
It's like Seth Green's best character.
Yeah, and then the opening and then the ending with the suicide
mission.
Suicide mission. Like,
we're
going on the suicide mission. We might not all make it back. And I was so invested in that. I was like, hold on, like, let me send this person through this, and like, I'll have this person as my like, whatever, the force wielder, whatever the hell they were called.
How close to how much attention were you like paying attention to like your crew to figure out what their strengths and weaknesses were?
Right, and then doing the the loyalty missions and stuff like that.
You needed it.
And we just talked about the illusion of choice, but within this game at least, that ending, it actually did.
Yeah, it did 100%. Because I remember, I forget what my choices were, but like the robot kept dying, and I'm like, why do you keep dying? Like, reset. Like I'm like resetting. I'm like, all right. This time you're not
No,
gonna die.
I think I had
Please
like
die.
7 different saves, so I could have like a relationship with every person. That's
Yeah.
Yeah,
like,
Corey had this game set up. Yeah, I remember
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
So-
But yeah. I mean, I'm not gonna talk about the third one, but Mass Effect 2 was
as a
just
standalone
awesome.
by itself.
As a
thing. Like,
standalone,
yeah.
as a standalone, but also as a follow up for Mass Effect
for
1.
one.
It was
Right.
I mean,
amazing.
And it'll
and
be discussed again.
that type of ending, though, like, still kind of looking for that in other games now.
I would like them to do that for a Mass Effect game.
Well, I was honestly looking at that for Outer Worlds. I was like, okay, do these loyalty missions matter? No.
Yeah, they didn't.
Mhm.
So we still have the illusion of choice. I want that impactful game now. The size of these games, and especially with solid state drive loading and stuff coming to us soon, this game can be remade properly. Like this could be done. What we want can be done.
We have the
there.
technology.
We have the technology. We just choose to build it. Anyways, Corey, you're number 10.
My number 10, Mike mentioned. Rocket League is my number 10.
Really?
Yeah, this game single-handedly saved PlayStation early on. Like,
I can see that.
I would say, like,
In Rezo.
what else did you have to play?
Resogun, that was it. Yeah.
Like, and the fact that they took a simple concept and just made something that was super accessible, super easy to obtain because it was free for most people that had PS Plus at the time, and they built on that and just kept giving and giving and giving, and it was like the Fortnite before Fortnite, I should say, essentially, because you just like got in and just could play games and it was just it was so much fun just like to play games. And
Yeah.
so as far as the impact, this is probably the game that got on here because of its impact on what it on the generation.
Why did Walking Dead? I mean, it's like it needed to be on the list.
Yeah.
So I understand that. So
Cool. So that's good.
number 9, Diablo 3. Originally
Silence.
originally launched as a incomplete game, but when they had Reaper of Souls come out, which is the one that I played, I think this is the most hours I ever invested in a game total. Like, I mean, I would sit like mindlessly staring at my screen, running dungeons and getting loot, and then just looping again. And just, I remember doing that with Diablo 2 with the cows on the, I remember doing that, but not to this extent, because there was like, they added the dodge button on the consoles, and like that was awesome to have, and that's going to be in the new one, and it's just like, they did add that in the PC later on, I believe, right? They added that back.
I think so.
But like, Reaper of Souls fixed everything about this game they needed to do. That was the finished game, and that's the game that should have been launched. Obviously, they launched it way too early. But I put so many hours in this game. DPS, I was a sorceress. I was just firewalling, ice blasting. I was just like, I loved running those dungeons on my own or with other people. Like Corey and I would jump into games constantly with each other, but I would be on my own just running, trying to get those higher leveled difficulty settings to get the higher gear. This game didn't get any higher than this because I think everything else above it is just so solid as well. But it's great. I could see it on somebody's list higher. And in fact, it's funny. I realized I'm going to just mention the fact that Destiny did not make my list right now. And I played a lot of hours of that game. Probably more so than a lot of the games I'm going to list. No. Nah, not really. I mean, I played a lot of hours of Destiny, but more so in Diablo 3. So I just realized that Destiny wasn't on my list. I knew it was like 10 for me for a little bit, but Walking Dead deserved to be where it is. So not changing my mind. Number 9, Mike, for you.
Let's see, number 9. We've got Spider-Man on PlayStation 4. You're going to see a little bit of a trend for the type of game.
All right, spoiler alert, that's my number 9 as well.
Oh, good. Okay.
Yeah. So
crossover.
Spider-Man, it took a lot of the things that I liked about a similar franchise you might hear from later, and added it to a different character, and a character that hadn't had, in my opinion, a really strong game again in a long time. I did not like the Beanox Spider-Man games. I liked Spider-Man 2. I even like Spider-Man 3 as much as
I like the dimensional one. I like that one.
Shattered Dimension. Yeah,
I played that in the
they
hardest
were-
difficulty and beat
They
that
were
game.
okay. I didn't like them. I liked the more open world Spider-Man games.
For the record, to this day, that is my last time I played something on the hardest difficulty was Shattered Dimensions, and I'll take full credit that I beat that game, unlocked all of the achievements. That's the last game I did that with. I think that was my last, it was like the burning candle when it burns brightest before it burns out. That was it for me. My reaction time just went to shit after that, and I can't play on the hardest difficulties anymore. But go on, Mike. Sorry. Didn't mean to hijack this.
It's all right. It sounds like a personal problem.
Yeah. I'm old.
But no, I mean, and it had fun traversal.
The swinging was really, they nailed that, and it may not be as good as Spider-Man 2 like back in the day, but
I would have liked it to be a little more challenging than it was, but it's fine. It was still real fun.
It's so much fun though, and the recreation of New York City is so good that it just feels so good to swing around in the city and just play in that universe, play in that.
It's crazy.
It was the best looking virtual New York we've got so far.
Yeah.
This was the game that I could ask my friend who lives in New York to say do you remember? Do you know this building? And he's like, yeah, I do know that building. I'm like, oh my god. So it was that actually happened.
Yeah, and it definitely could have gone so bad for this game too. They could have fucked it up completely. And they really hit every nail on the head. There's some things obviously here and there.
The mini quest stuff. I thought.
But there's a lot of stuff you can just skip that you don't need to do.
There's the story's great. All the characters look a little weird facially, but that's fine. The story was great though, and I'm real excited about what comes next in the story in that game.
PS5.
Yeah, maybe.
Sorry, Mike. I have to upgrade.
But same thing though, because it's my number 9 as well. It's going. The boss fights I think were really well done. In particular, just the Vulture and Shocker fight. I really enjoyed that one a lot. Mm-hmm. And you really feel like you're Spider-Man when you're playing this game.
It captured the essence of being an actual superhero.
There was a lot of this is going to be a lot of quick time events coming up, with the trailers and stuff. But then they really they integrate that stuff well, where you still feel like you're in control most of the time.
There really wasn't as many as it looked like there could have been.
Mm-hmm.
The only reasons why it's not higher for me is those Miles and MJ sections.
Oh yeah,
they were such a drag, and it sort of didn't have the replayability that I was hoping for with a big game like that. But it's still really good, and it actually really nailed the verticality of him too. You could fight people midair or knock them off buildings, and it had the little zipped thing to tie them to the building, which another franchise would do.
Yeah, despite the upgrade paths were really great, and the suits, they kept throwing suits at you.
The only after a while though, when they stopped having abilities that came with them, I got a little disappointed. But it was definitely a top tier action adventure game with Spider-Man, and it was definitely fun while there was new stuff to do in it.
Okay, all right, Tony, you're number 9.
Mine was Nier Automata.
The
Platinum Games. I mean, this game is just really fun. I'm a Platinum Games fan, which you'll see maybe a little later on. But this game was just so fluid, just action slasher type game. It had some really awesome character designs, a unique story setting, just crazy about humans built these androids to take over, reclaim the Earth from aliens that took over and stuff like that. It was oh shit. But the ending sequence of this game is just a standout moment, and I think Jim, you're the only other one to play it on this list. But that to me, I could still clearly remember playing that game and just experiencing everything that it had to offer.
There was such an epic scale battle that escalated, and then even in the credit part, did you choose to delete your data and send your guy into
I was a coward. I didn't
do it either. I kept mine entirely.
I wanted to platinum it first, but I never actually got around to doing it. So maybe I'll go back and beat it and just do it.
For those you guys didn't play it, there's a choice at the end of the game to send you get aided by other people at the end of this game that have played this game. They can send their hero to aid you in the finale. And so the game asks you if you want to do this later on, in the same thing, and you're like, I chose not to do it. So
like the game literally asks you, do you want to help others like they helped you? And you're just like, well, what does that mean? And it's like, if you say yes to this, we delete your save file. Like, there's no coming back from this. And it's just like, oh shit. And like, it's not even like a liar. It's not like, Kojima thing. It's like,
all I thought about was,
you click on this, like, it sends a command to your
my
PlayStation.
thought went to how many people got blown apart in my finale, my ending of my game, because I lost a lot of people at the ending of that game that came in to help me.
Exactly.
So I was like, wow, I destroyed all of these save games.
But yeah, just a great game, and it had an amazing soundtrack too. Like I still listen to that soundtrack.
I thought the world was great. I thought for a destroyed world with robots, it was still an awesome world.
Yep, and I think we're gonna see a sequel pretty soon next
That'd
year.
Be awesome. So cool. All right, number 8 for me was Overwatch. So yeah, Overwatch. Very rarely does a game get me to play online against other people, or with other people, for that matter. Overwatch is a game that I absolutely want. It's the only one on my list that I did. Competitively. I would play that game, and I played season 1 and 2 for that game. I would watch videos about my characters to play them better, like Lucio. I was like, I don't know how many hours I watched for like strategies on what you would do in combat in certain levels and maps, where you can kind of hacks the map to get like into a better area, to heal, and how to switch back and forth between speed and heal. I love playing that character. And then Diva was like, it's such a great character. I still remember playing her. Like, I have my most kills in a row with her. Like, I went on a rampage with her, like with the mech. So even like blowing up the mech, killing people, and getting the mech back, and getting back in and killing more people, and it was just like I went on a nice run with her. It'll always stay with me, and just what it did for, what it's doing. It's still going on. Overwatch League. It's still happening. Tony. There it is. Overwatch League exactly. On your hat. It's just like it brought esports bigger, more mainstream, more it's
more
been
accessible.
there. Not to say it's not been there, but it's like it's a league now. It's legit. Like baseball owners are owning teams in the esports, because of how big this game, like what they're doing with this game. Everything was free with the exception of like cosmetics in this game. Best way to do any sort of paid content, I think, is the way to go. They did it right. I would have loved to have been able to buy what I want to buy. The random loot boxes were not great, but and I like what they're doing with the idea of 2. So this is number 8. I'm sure it'll be higher on people's lists. But I played probably on my list maybe the second most hours on this game on my list for games I've played. I don't know, maybe not. There's a lot of hours in a couple of these games on there, but it was, like I said, this gaming list for me came together like super fast. I just knew where these games were falling. So, Mike, you're number 8.
Okay, so this one squeaks in 2010. It's going to be my representative for a franchise that may have had another game on here, but probably not. And it's going to be Fallout New Vegas.
Nice.
Oh, see, I didn't play that one.
Yeah.
It was awesome.
A lot of people's favorite Fallout.
It's pretty much, functionally, it's very similar.
As long as you don't get that game-breaking glitch.
Yeah.
It's very similar to Fallout 3 functionally, which obviously didn't make this decade, but it had, a few more branching paths and more options, and there's just so much content in this game. You can talk your way in or out of a lot of things. You can go after people in a different way, and New Vegas was an interesting area, and you had some very memorable companions too, like I remember my companion Boone, and his again. When we go back to this sort of idea of companion quests, they all had companion quests too, and they got a new perk or something. When I don't even remember, but they got something when you completed it, or you got something.
Yeah. Yep.
They gave you something, and so it was very interesting, and just it's not like functionally the best game, and I didn't like how it had a hard ending, because I don't feel like these types of games should have hard endings when you acquire stuff for so long and level up. But I really enjoyed it, and most of its DLC was good, aside from that one ghostly like casino area, which was terrible. But I just put so much time in this, and this is like when I think about Fallout, like sometimes I think I'm thinking about 3, and then I'm really thinking about this game, and I think that happens a lot. So this is kind of like the the pinnacle kind of, and along with 3 of like 3D Fallout. And I just there's quantity and quality. I don't think they're mutually exclusive, and I think if it might have been a little glitchy and like ugly looking for the time, it made up for it just by like having so much content for you to explore for so long. So
yeah. I mean that game to me is like there's almost infinite replayability with that game because you can build your character. Like it is a true RPG in the sense that you can build your character however you want it. You want like a brawler that's just hulking and like melee combat, go for it. You want to do a sharpshooter, go for it. You want to do a charismatic like wisecracking like person that has no combat skills whatsoever, you could do it, and you could still do almost all the quests by just these other things where it's just like, oh, you got to kill this person, but your character sucks at combat. Oh well, you can pay this NPC to like convince this NPC to like poison the guy, something like that, and it's just like Hitman style shit. Yeah. Like,
and that's where the same company obviously made the recent Outer Worlds, and that's where it did the same similar things. But this one, in other games and other franchises, I find myself getting into trouble thinking that I could still do. And I think maybe even in Fallout 4, I got into trouble thinking I should just lie to everyone's face and like pretend to be on everyone's side, and then put off like committing to anyone or just lying to them and acting like I'm on their side but not really. That you can't always do that in every other game. So I've learned that the hard way, including I think Fallout 4, where I tried to do that and then they either cut that off real quick or like force you into like.
There's some things where it's just like they hate you, like the opposite factions just hate you now. It's like, well, can't come back from that.
But yeah, so like I just really enjoyed getting into the habit of just like being like, I'm gonna be like a quadruple agent for all these factions, like, and I'll just decide on my own later on, like who I really want to, or just take them all over. So it did factions in an interesting way too, where it knew that words were words and didn't have to mean like that's your alignment too, which was I think a good distinction for a verbally based mostly RPG like that.
Cool. All right, Tony, you're number 8.
My number 8 is going to be the only mobile game on this podcast, but it's going to be Pokemon Go. And I know it sounds a little strange, but
what a failure of a game.
When I think about that, it's just again, I'm going for experiences here, and Pokemon Go just offered such a new experience. And like I don't play it to this day, but that first year, and especially that first summer when it came out, like I would honestly say, and I'm not even trying to exaggerate here, but I would honestly say that summer where Pokemon came out was the closest that human civilization has ever been to world peace since World War II. Like, I know it sounds crazy to say, but like everybody around the world was playing that game, and like there was this camaraderie and just community based around going to these locations and doing like catching Pokemon, and then they expanded it.
I don't know, because a lot of people are breaking the law just so they could get to certain locations too.
A lot of people got like hit by cars
and trampling over each other.
Well, look, I mean, those are some minor.
It was a universal language here, Corey. Though.
Yeah.
Like, I know what he's saying. Like it's
I know. I just think it's funny because people start trespassing and like breaking into places just like so they can freaking get there.
Those are individual bad actors, and that's a minuscule percentage, but they just built upon that game.
Like, the global impact this game had is like
I absolutely 100% will admit. Like when I'm wrong, and I was completely wrong about this game and what it would do and the impact of it. But I don't like it, but I know what it did.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing is like I loved it, and every now and then like it seems like every summer people start playing it, and I'll load it up just to do like the raid battles and stuff. Like they really have built upon that game where like the community days. I remember like joining Discord because it'd be like, hey guys, we're meeting up at this park. So we can like raid these legendary Pokemon and stuff. I'm like, all right, I'm not doing anything this Saturday. I'll go, and then it's just. This park is completely packed and completely filled with people. And, it's obviously people like us where it's like nerds and whatnot, but you have like, I see these families and that's what they're doing together on a Saturday. And I think to myself, like, damn, like this is the power that video games can have where it's like, this is like the defining aspect of our generation, just like movies and music and, books were, previously, because people are just doing this together, and that's like a bonding thing. So, Pokemon Go, I have
outside the box.
Recognize it. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And it's crazy how like still to this day, like you still see people play, like waiting in line at PAX Unplugged with to get my badge cord. Like people are just playing it right in front of me. I'm just like, I haven't updated my game, so I can't do this. But so I think it's cool that you guys are doing it.
Cool. Corey, number 8.
My number 8 is I'm assuming the only PlayStation Vita game on anyone's list.
Wow, we are going.
Yeah.
Cuts here.
And that's Persona 4 Golden.
Nice.
Persona 4 was, it changed the game as far as like what RPGs could be and what you'd expect from RPGs. And then they shrunk it down into this mobile game here, basically, and put it on the Vita, and it just is one of the best all-time like RPGs ever. And the amount of content there is, the amount of things you can do, the way it makes you feel like you're really playing this role in this character. And then it's got that Pokemon element where you're collecting your personas and like using them, like, oh, I'm gonna switch this persona to like whatever. And they do it and they make it a mobile game essentially. It's not a mobile game, but like they allow you to play it like wherever you want. And this is a game that you could put like 90 hours in easily and then do it all over again. So, and you have to if you want to get platinum too. So, but yeah, no, it's it had to be on my list because it was probably one of the most fun experiences I ever had on the Vita, really. Because
I think it's the number one selling game on Vita.
Yeah.
It deserved. I think it was packaged with the Vita for a little bit, wasn't it?
They had a Vita, like I think they had like a deal. I don't know if it ever was actually packaged with it, but they definitely had something with their console there. But Persona 4 Golden absolutely needed to be on my list here because again, it's one of my favorite RPGs ever. So
yeah, I had played Persona 4 on the PS2, but if I had played on the Vita, it probably would have made a list. I mean, that was a fantastic game. So
yeah, they added content to it as well, like some of the best characters ever as well. Like just like you just got so attached to these characters and.
Yep.
So yeah.
Cool. My number 7, XCOM Enemy Unknown.
Ooh.
I expected this to be on your list at some point, Jim.
It needs to be there. I still remember.
You gotta tell your story. You gotta tell that story.
Exactly. What game it came out in 2012? This game. So I told this story back 8 years ago almost now that Lana Lang saved the world. And yeah, because this game was so great, and I never played the other XCOM games. I know there was some before this, and I didn't really like XCOM 2, Enemy Unknown 2, as much, but because that was so glitchy. This was glitchy as well, but turn-based game that, it wasn't really, turn-based games weren't really around anymore at this point, a tactical shooter kind of thing. But they're not big, but I wasn't playing them either. I love this game though. Like I love the aspect of the recruit soldiers and name them whatever I want to call them. And that's why I just mentioned, like, I started naming people, like I had Riggs and Murtaugh at some point, and they got blown up by a car. They were next to a car and cover, and I just misjudged what the
backstories for these characters.
Oh yeah. I just completely misjudged what I meant to do. Like, oh man, I put them in the wrong spot.
Squad. Yeah.
But I remember that last battle so well. It was in this final room, and I had my A team going, and all shit it hit the fan, and it got to the point where I'm like, I'm gonna have to sacrifice my favorite characters in this game that I've created, and they're so powerful, to try to bring down this alien invasion, to the point where all that was left was my sniper, Lana Lang, in the back of the room, with I knew I had one turn left. I had to make the shot, and it had to be a crit. And she pulled it off, killed the boss, and that's how I beat the game. Because everyone else was dead, and I was like, well, I'm going to have to reload if I miss this shot. And I'm like, please make this shot. And she made the shot. I'm like, Lana Lang saved the fucking world. And again, it's like memorable. It's so memorable.
Yeah.
7 years ago. 7 years ago. I remember that exact thing. And talking about it on this podcast. So, yeah, excellent game. Mike, number 7.
All right, well, this is where it gets dicey for me because pretty much my 7 through 4 are almost interchangeable.
It's fine. They're all splitting hairs. We're all splitting hairs with these lists. I'm not saying any of these could be number 1 for people.
I'm going to say Horizon Zero Dawn is my number
It's a
7.
good game. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a great game.
It surprised me. It came out of nowhere a little bit.
Oh yeah.
It was covered a bit, and we were wondering, if it would be.
It was.
I
It
think you're
surprised
twisting
you,
the
maybe,
facts because I remember watching that E3, and I think Corey, you and I were the ones that were like positive on that game. We're like,
I was
man,
shit
that
on
looks so
it.
cool.
I was shit on it.
dinosaurs.
Giants are
And you guys were
robots,
shitting
man.
on it.
Yeah, it didn't look interesting at first.
I
at
said it
all
looked
to me.
terrible. I heard it was super glitchy. I'm like, this game's gonna be broken.
Came out of nowhere. We had like a year and a half at least.
I mean,
Yeah, at least 2
it
years.
came
We
out
got
of
Yeah.
bunch
out of
trailers.
nowhere. As far as I think, it came out of nowhere because it's
That's
a
good.
new IP. It's a
Yeah.
new IP. It didn't necessarily inspire confidence with its early teases, and then it ended up being one of my top games. It was great. I like the story.
I have to say, like, as far as what that story, like what Zero Dawn represented, it was one of my favorite moments ever. Like finding out like what that actually meant.
It's
Like, yo, you're fucked.
Yeah.
You're fucked.
Yeah.
It's not a matter of how we survive. It's a matter of how we can come back.
Yes. Yeah.
But normally these whole like mystery of the world type things, they're never quite satisfying when you find them out. This one, it kind of was like.
Yeah.
I
Like
mean,
you said, it kind of followed through that whole thing. Yeah.
it really was, and even though the main character seems a little too modern for what's happening in that world, it was a lot of fun to follow the story. Even though I could have used maybe a few more characters in this game, but other than that, the combat was great. I loved the sort of different types of
Different styles against human opponents and robot opponents. Yeah.
and they're vulnerable to different things.
Yeah.
You can turn them on each other, which is always fun. I love doing that in every game. That's an option. They were interesting and
I mean,
pretty
grass
bad.
is so OP though. All right.
Yeah.
I didn't really. I don't think I whistled like more than once in the game.
I whistle a lot.
I didn't do that. I didn't want to do that. It's another one of those games where I squeezed as much as I could out of it. I found almost all the collectibles. I did the DLC, which was pretty good too, and
Yeah. Cool.
just a big, great combination of action, story, and gameplay.
Yeah, I love this game too, and the engine that they're using here, I think, has got a lot of potential going forward.
And it's from a shooter franchise like developer first, so it was a big surprise. Loved it.
All right, Tony.
Number 7. Right. Okay. My number 7 was Bloodborne.
Nice.
This game was just super atmospheric. Dark Souls never it always casually intrigued me.
Keep going.
And I might go back to it, but Bloodborne just hit a chord with me. I think it was the perfect combination of gameplay, the environment, the difficulty, and just the lore, because it had this weird eldritch horror sub theme, because at first it's just monsters and whatnot, and then it turns out to be
Lovecraftian.
Yeah, exactly, that Lovecraftian shit, and there's so much fucked up shit that happens in this game, and the lore is there if you really want to read deep into it. The one day I just went through and read article after article after article, watching YouTube videos. I'm like, holy crap, I didn't know this lore existed. But the combat is just fantastic. I had tried Demon Souls on PlayStation 3, and it didn't resonate with me because it was really defense oriented, where you had to shield and the parry.
It's different style. I've heard people that like Bloodborne don't like Demon Souls, and Demon Souls fans don't really like Bloodborne for what it introduced.
Yeah. They're they're similar, but
it's similar game, but yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So what I appreciate about Bloodborne is it rewards offense, because Dark Souls most typically, aside from speedrunners and pros, it's you need to be defensive and methodical about it. Bloodborne just at least the way I played it was
you don't have a shield.
There's one shield in the game, and it's shitty. The description of the item even says it's not very effective. Don't use this. I was that's a joke. But it just rewards offensive gameplay and just being all right, look, you can kill me in 3 hits, but let me see if I can kill you in 20 hits or 25 hits or whatever it is.
Well, let me see if I can kill you before you hit me once.
Right, hit me that. And there are times where they just hit you, so many instant death attacks and stuff like that, where just that bullshit, that didn't hit me, that kind of stuff. But just it just really changed the way of like just gameplay and systems on top of systems. The leveling, like the bosses were just crazy. But yeah, it's just awesome experience, and I really hope Bloodborne 2 is one of the launch titles for PS5 because I would pick it up.
I think it will be. I think it will be.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah. Corey, number 7.
Number 7 is Overwatch.
Yeah.
So
Nice.
talked about it before. Overwatch, again, it was a global phenomenon, changed the way people
It's global phenomenon. So.
looked at competitive team-based shooters, introduced a competitive esport to the world, and the thing that I think that gets overlooked a little bit also is the lore. I mean, the lore in this game is fantastic.
Yeah.
And the way that they initially introduced it was interesting, and like really made you super invested into it. I think they've fallen off on that a little bit now.
They seem to have. Yeah. I know that I myself haven't been as interested in what they've done cutscene wise for people recently.
Yeah, spoiler alert for me, this game didn't make my list, and it's actually because it had dropped off. And I believe I'd said because it made my game. I think it was my game of the year when it came out.
Yeah,
or runner up. But that first year, that initial. That first year was amazing, and if that had been this past year, it absolutely would have made my list. But I pretty sure I remember saying that depending on how they support this game, this could be one of the all-time greatest games. And I think they've fallen a bit in that regard because after the first, I don't know, I want to say year and a half or whatever, they started repeating events, very bare bones, it's just oh, new Christmas skins, and they're that's cool and stuff, but where's the actual lore events? Whereas they did Uprising and then they did I think the Reaper thing. I'm just that's it. It's been 4 years or however many things, and it's they could have given us so much more. And I understand from behind the scenes they wanted to focus on Overwatch League, which I love that. I appreciate it, but feels why couldn't we have gotten both?
That's the thing. Is definitely has fallen off a little bit, and they're introducing more heroes, but I don't feel like they're pushing the story forward. And again, I was saying, that story, that lore, and you had to go out and look for it a little bit, but it wasn't hidden. You just had to. It was just a little bit.
There was mystery though to it. There was solving the mystery. There was the meta.
Sombra shit was garbage.
Yeah. There's all that meta stuff.
But
that kind of ended my interest in the game.
But where this game is now and where it was started, it's still going strong, and to this day people are playing it obviously like crazy, and the team-based aspect of it, they allowed people that weren't necessarily great at first-person shooters to have a role on a team that they could feel comfortable.
Yeah, I mentioned that I have a hard time keeping up nowadays with being an active running shooting kind of game, Call of Duty stuff. I'm not great at those games, but it gave me the opportunity to play as Lucio or as I mean, like I said, Devo is not bad. Yeah. Devo is not bad. Yeah, tanks and stuff like that. You can play as alternate characters. You don't have to play as Reaper. You know what I mean? You can choose.
Yeah, it's awesome, and I still love it. It's just I think Overwatch 2 is going to be the game I want, overall as a package, competitive, PvE, esports, the whole package. So I'm hoping that Overwatch 2 will make my list of the 2020s. So.
All right. My number 6 game. This is the last of this podcast. We're doing, like I said, 10 through 6. Number 6 for me, Fire Emblem Awakening. The game that put Fire Emblem on the map. No, because the other games are just I'm splitting hairs. This could be number 1.
Yeah, no,
honestly,
it's tough.
This could be number 1, but to this day, I've played 2 other Fire Emblem games now, and this is my favorite one still. The time travel aspect of it, and to get the other character from that, it's I want that leveled up better character from the result of the 2 people you're matching together. It was the first, I think I mentioned it on the other podcast where I was I feel like that had the most impactful raising your companion rank, your helper rank, because that was you had to get an S rank. There was a reward for that, and so I just love that aspect. A lot of people said that this was more mainstream Fire Emblem, the original fans, but it got me into it. So it was a window. It was a gateway. It was a gateway drug.
This was the last Fire Emblem game.
Yeah, that's exactly how they designed the game. They're guys, this is probably gonna be the last Fire Emblem game for the future. So. Throw whatever you want to in it, and they had all the little nods. That's why there's a lot heavy Marth, Falchion, presence in the game, and there's like all these nods to the older games as recruitable characters and stuff like that. And yeah, the whole just like breeding aspect of it, where it's like
that was.
What if I pair my Lancer with my Dark Mage? Like, what character are they going to?
I would sit there thinking about this as I'm doing them. They're like, when I'm positioning them on the battlefield, I'm like, do I want to pair these two? Because I don't want to get them to the point where they're like, I want this guy to match with
I'd
her.
love to see a remake of this come out.
It was such a cool aspect. I just loved I played hours of this game, and that's where I was like, when making statements about how many hours I put into games, I'm like, I put a lot into this one, so I don't know. It's number 6 for me without a doubt. So the other ones, not like it's couldn't be number 1. It's just like the other ones are, I think, all my games of the year. So I think this was a game of the year for me, actually. I believe it was actually. So like that's why I said the gaming list for me fell into place based on my games of the year, essentially. But all right, Mike, you're number 6.
God of War.
Nice.
Oh, the recent one.
Yes, of course.
Okay.
The
only one that matters.
Could have been 3. Could have been God of War.
I guess so. I mean, I didn't really like the old ones, but
I didn't either. So
this one, it's a totally different thing. It's a reinvention. It's actually quite similar to Horizon Zero Dawn. But yeah. Well, no, I mean, this isn't like an Uncharted game, but there's a little bit of that here and there with the hidden load screens. But
can't wait for that trend to die.
I mean, what else are you gonna do? Just
it's a great God of War game, and I don't like God of War. That's why it's not it's probably not a great God of War game though. That's what I'm saying. Like it's a game that we all it's like my Fire Emblem Awakening, where like the original fans of that game, like it's not the same. It's a more mainstream game. This is more a God of War for a lot of people.
And it actually feels a little bit like the Fallen Order feels a little bit like this game too. But no, it's a weird place for me to jump into a franchise, I know. Sure. But luckily, I think I like this better than I would have liked the old ones for sure.
No,
just by,
I just feel
like 5 minutes
so
of the
repetitive.
old ones.
Yeah. The only thing about this game was like when I was done with it, I was done with it. That was the only problem with this game. I didn't have any desire.
I didn't do that. I found there's a lot of optional content that you can
Yeah, I just didn't
do.
Like, what's funny is I went back and listened to our Of the Year podcasts, and when I discussed God of War, I still feel the same way today. Like when you're going on the raft, rowing past, there's a ghost up there trying to get your thing, and then you get you to help them, and your boy's like, look, that guy needs help, and you're just like, don't have time for that, boy. And I'm like, that was my whole time. This entire time in this game is, I don't want to help this idiot up there. I'm going to, I have my own quest here.
Yeah.
You could have done it afterwards.
I could have, yeah, but I just didn't have desire afterwards.
But no, I liked that. It was just a very constrained open world and a little bit of the Metroidvania stuff too. You had to think sometimes little mini puzzles to unlock certain chests. There was an RPG element with the armor that doesn't matter until you fight the really hard stuff that is optional, like the Valkyries. And which I did, and I also went to the horrible mist planet. Not planet. See, I am confusing the games now. Yeah, realm, and you have certain things that can sort of limit that mist thing and that randomly generated thing. So there was a lot to do afterwards for me, and a lot to explore. You can level up your armor. You can get like the Infinity Gauntlet thing that'll shoot something. So it was real cool, a real interesting way to look at this character.
The companion actually useful too. Like they actually made him
useful, even though he's occasionally annoying. But it was just a big surprise, and I loved the combat, even though sometimes it seemed a little difficult in silly ways. But it was just
it's one of my favorite combat.
It was just satisfying, and you had
absolutely
different weapon options. Just combination of action.
Bringing that axe back was just
exploration, puzzle solving.
The axe back was awesome. Just getting the axe back in your hand was great. So cool. All right, Tony.
Not to poo-poo on you guys, but I couldn't put God of War anywhere near on my list because I can understand the enjoyment out of it, but for me it was like, this is an action game for people that don't play action games. So my number 6 is Bayonetta 2 because that's an action game for people that play action games. Because I don't know. Again, I don't want to poo-poo on it. But Bayonetta 2, it's whereas I talked about Bloodborne being methodical, offensive, and just paced against the boss and stuff like that. Bayonetta 2 is like one end of the spectrum where it's like fast and it's just about combos and seeing how long you can go do those combos. I know, Jim, like you're a huge fan of Devil May Cry, and I can't believe you still have not played these games yet. I keep telling you, you need to play these games, especially with Bayonetta 3 right around the corner.
Yeah, I probably will play it soon. Yeah, I probably play it soon then.
The way that this game, like, the way I love about Platinum Games is they introduce a mechanic or a weapon, and it's like, okay, cool, you think you mastered it, and then you just add another level to it, and another level, and by the end of the game, you're pulling off these disgusting-ass combos with these abilities and just summons and all this ridiculous shit. You're just like, what the fuck? But especially like the boss battles are what makes these action games. And that's where some of these other games come up short. But Bloodborne and Bayonetta 2, they just do this awesome job of creating these like spectacle boss fights that are actually challenging, not just like a QTE, like, oh, I got to do this, where it's legitimately like you're fighting gods by the end of the game. It's like, okay, this is pretty fucking ridiculous. But yeah, Bayonetta 2, just awesome.
Cool. Corey, number 6.
My number 6 was on Jim's list earlier, and is Diablo 3.
Yeah, figured.
Yep, yeah. I mean, put loot in something, someday I'm all about it.
Your top 5 is all going to be loot games, I know.
It's gonna be, I mean, yeah.
So, just like what you mentioned, like this game is all about optimizing the fastest way you can get loot in this, and just figuring out the best runs, the best.
And how difficult you could make it. Like I was like, I could probably pull this off and go harder and get better.
Like the different torment levels and just powering up your character, get the Paragon levels, like just seeing how ridiculous you can become, how powerful you can become, and then optimizing the different builds. The thing I love about Diablo 3 is you have all of these different, build options and synergies between the different, armor pieces and weapon pieces and how they work together, and the relics and like the amulets and stuff, and just putting that all together to make the most efficient engine, like a character to run through this specific dungeon, and then just do it all over again and keep going through it. It's so fun, and going through the different characters, and then with the latest release on Switch, even like getting that Necromancer, he was great. It was a lot of fun playing as a Necromancer, and the seasons have been a really neat thing to keep the community going, and getting the reward seasonal rewards, and being able to like kind of clout that and show like, oh, I've got this like in this season, in that season. So Diablo 3 had to be there, because obviously when it comes to looting stuff and just leveling up, I'm all about that. So the grind and finding that efficient and most synergistic character and just doing it all over again. So that's all about.
Absolutely. All right, that's gonna wrap up part 1 of our of the decade list. This was 10 through 6, folks. Next week, tune in. We're gonna do 5 through 1. Same thing on the movie cast. If you haven't checked that out, we have the other one where we did 10 through 6 on the movie cast. So check that out. Thanks for listening. You can write us, podcast at allyoucangeek.net. Follow us on Twitter, allyoucangeek. Like us on Facebook. If you're watching us on YouTube, hit that subscribe button. We appreciate it. And we'll see you guys next week for the next half.
Join us on Discord.
And join us in Discord. Sorry. Join us in Discord. Yes, thank you.
I don't know how you can find us on Discord, but send us an email. We'll send you a link.
Send us an email. We'll send you a link, or we'll try to put it in our description.
Tweet at us, whatever.
Yes, thank you. All right. Out.